So I will start that. There we go. I will share my screen and we will get started. If you do have a question, Dakota is monitoring the chat, so feel free to put it in the chat, and he will get to the individual answers. And then if he feels as though it's something that should be brought up to everybody, he'll let me know. We'll bring it up to everybody, those types of things. But feel free to ask away any questions that you've got, and we'll have a little Q&A at the end as time allows as well. So we'll get started. So when I share my screen here, you guys should see a profile for quote unquote your favorite track. It's a demo profile testing here for us. This is what we use, for just generic things like that. The dashboard page should look familiar to you. That's the same thing for your track when you log in. It's mostly used for navigation. Season management on the tabs left on the bottom of the screen. Same with race management. Your profile tab is where your track logo is. Website tools here as well. There are a couple of things that I want to draw your attention to on this page to kind of, I guess highlight. First, app favorites section. So when you go to My Race Pass app favorites, it's showing you how many people in the My Race Pass app have favorited your facility, your track, or your series. The advantage for folks doing so is they get push notifications on their device when you guys have a rain out, or when your races start, or when your fantasy groups open, let's see, if you push a news article, those types of things. So I think it's valuable to have your announcer mention it. Hey, favorite us in the My Race Pass app. That way you can be notified when something's happening at your favorite track. As I scroll down this page, two other things that I want you to look at here. Sandbox on the bottom of the screen. If you want to test something, Sandbox is a siloed environment that's a direct copy of your live environment data. So you can, if you want to practice a different lineup scheme, you want to do this, that, or the other thing, see what happens. Use Sandbox for that. There's also a help and support section down here with links to our help center articles and help videos. For the articles themselves under season management or race management, we've got north of 200 help center articles that have all been rewritten this winter or coming up or recently here. So everything in that help center is brand new in the promoter section. Driver stuff's a little older, but that doesn't change much. But all the promoter stuff's brand new, rewritten in the last 2 to 3 months. So you have questions, feel free to go to the help center. You might answer your own questions there. Of course, you can always email support@myracepass.com for myself or Dakota or anyone else on our team to be able to look into those things and get back to you. Jump here to the profile tab next. This is all really straightforward stuff. If you're used to logging into My Race Pass a whole bunch, a lot of it will look familiar, but there are things that have changed. So I'm going to show you those things as well. First off, this account tab, you can update your images here. That's pretty much all you do here. Your profile image, your header image, update those if you need to. You can click the edit profile button to take you to this profile option where you're really putting in track basics, the link, the shape, the address, the contact information if you want that to show on the app, the location data, the track features, those types of things. Track feature, a lot of that stuff pretty much never changes. Track features is one thing that I always tell folks to jump in and make sure at least once a year that it's still right. Just as you do changes or improvements to your facility, you want to make sure that those amenities are communicated properly in the My Race Pass app. So, things like if you allow coolers, or if your parking is paved, or if you sell fuel or tires in the pits, or whatever, those types of things you can do here. And the last thing on this screen is aliases. We've always said if the racetrack has ever been known by a different name, add that as an alias. That way, if somebody searches for the old name, it still brings them to the right place. There's also other uses for that we're finding can be somewhat important. If your racetrack can be searched by a non-traditional name. So like I always use the example of I-80 Speedway down the street from us, for, WISSOTA purposes, I-94. If the racetrack is I-94 Speedway, okay, that's one way to do it. But somebody might search for it without the dash, so I space 94, or they might shove them together, I no space 94. So there's multiple ways to search for it. So if that's something that could apply to you, and maybe that's a reason to put it in an alias. You put that in there and as a make it easier for folks to look you up and find you. Next option here is billing. Billing tab kind of shows you what you would expect the billing page to show you. The card on file, current subscription information, your previous invoices are in here. So you can see all those old invoices. They're all links. You can click on all of them. And then there's an option down at the very bottom of the screen for all access accounts. You can, depending on what type of plan you're on, plus 2 accounts, platinum 4 accounts, partner 6 accounts, you can add all access subscriptions for your folks for free, basically. Basically comp free app subscriptions for your employees, depending on how many you need to give out here. So you're basically just adding their email address with the email address that they log into the app with, and then you can start to comp those subscriptions. Many of our tracks were initially claimed by somebody at My Race Pass, whether that be Chris Krug or Josh or myself or whatever. So if you go here and you can see like the all access subscription that's comped is going to one of us, I can promise you we don't need it. So assign that to someone at your racetrack so they can have the free app subscription, which basically includes live timing and scoring, which is $8 a year. Some of the sanction specific point standings, which is in that insider plan, which I think is $35 a year. And then it's $55 a year for fantasy. But we've also broken that out to about $5 a month. So you can comp that kind of stuff for folks at your track. Rewards information is here as well. Rewards information, I am going to tell you that this tab is incorrect, but we do have it updated on our website. So go to myracepass.com. There are new rewards buckets that we just are putting together for the first time in a long time that I want to draw your attention to. Basically earn money off of next year's bill. So these are the rewards buckets. We don't have dollar amounts applied to them yet, but these are the buckets, and the interface in the admin side will be updated here pretty shortly. So MRP Live exclusivity, at least 10 races on your schedule. Run MRP Live exclusively for 70% of those events. You get money off of next year's bill for that. Online tickets, whether that's general admission style that we've always done or the new reserve stuff, doesn't matter. You can, for MRP online tickets, sell 1,000 tickets throughout the course of the year. You can earn money off of next year's bill that way. Dropship apparel, having something in the on our marketplace for an apparel design, sell 50 items, another $50 off. And then of course there's MRP fantasy racing. Have at least one leaderboard. Those leaderboards are generated automatically. And then have at least 500 unique fantasy players throughout the course of an entire season. That would be another bucket for money off of next year's bill. A lot of ways to earn money off. We don't have dollar amounts applied to those buckets yet, but they exist here. And then, of course, looking for additional revenue, the digital ad network. If you do a website through us, we can tell you about the digital ad network. Save that for another day. The users tab is the last thing in this screen. This is what has changed, pretty significantly from previously. A lot of the folks that you'd see in here before, you'd see either a standard admin or a site member. Is kind of confusing. That's gone. That's done away with. Now there's just user permissions. There's 3 sets of user permissions: box office, ticket redemption, and site administrator. The designer role in here you won't see, and it only applies if you have a website, and our website designer will be in there. If you add a user permission, basically first, last, and email address of the person, the email address that they use to log into My Race Pass with. You pick the permission type that they have. Site administrator is where you're going to put somebody who you want to be able to log into this, to have access to season management, race management, and your announcer and whoever else. Site administrator. There are 2 other permission options that you see: ticket redemption and box office. Those are part of our advanced ticketing features. So ticket redemption is the folks who have access to the in-app scanner on their mobile device. So if you want somebody to be able to scan tickets in the app, you add them as a ticket redemption user. Box office is somebody who has access to our front gate point of sale box office system. Again, for reserve seating, or you want to track your box office sales, you can use that system. So those are the permission types for that. You want to talk about our advanced ticketing features? We'll talk about them a lot more in depth on Thursday, but they do not come at an additional cost. We can create you a reserve seating map and get you access to all sorts of things at no additional cost. Permissions is, you won't see that. It's a bygone era. Same with clear caches. So really that's everything in the profile tab. We're talking about, billing information, rewards information, users, and some of the in-app stuff. So all pretty straightforward stuff there. Jump ahead to season management. And this is where we're going to spend a lot of our time this evening, is in season management. When you come to the season management tab, first things first, the first step that you've got is to create a new season. We are on March 21st. If you do not have your schedule in My Race Pass yet, you should do that. There are series that want to add your events to their schedule. There are drivers that want to add your events to their schedule. There are fans who want to see what your events are. Add your schedules if you have not already. But the first step would be to create a new season. Upper left, you see the drop down. You can filter it by previous seasons, or you can add new. So if you haven't added 2023 yet here, add a new season. If you've added all of your events, but you did it to the 2022 season, let me know so I can fix that so you have a correct season in there. But a season is just a calendar year. It's just a range from Jan 1 to December 31 of the thing, of all the things that are going to happen through that calendar year at your track. The second step here, config. So once you've got 23 created, you have to configure it. So your series and your classes. I always think it's more efficient to add the series first, because then the class associated with that series will automatically appear for you. So I already did this with Challenge Series earlier today, so now I have to find a different example here. Let's go with the NLRA. No. What is that? What is that called, Dakota? Those late models up that run at Grand Forks?
Northern Late Model Racing Association.
Is it completely spelled out?
I believe so.
Yeah, Northern. Okay, I said NLRA. I was right, for the record. The sprint car guy knew things about late models. I just want to say that out loud. But it's spelled out, Northern Late Model Racing Association. So you click on that, add, and now it looks like there is an error message. Northern Late Model Racing Association requires late model class. So you click continue, and then automatically WISSOTA late models are added because it's a WISSOTA sanctioned division. WISSOTA Late Model Challenge Series, I did that with that. WISSOTA Late Models added. So if I add World of Outlaws, 410 sprint cars will be added automatically. If I add Lucas Lowell Late Model Dirt Series, Dirt Super Late Models will be added automatically. So it's more efficient to add your series first, and then once your series are added, it's time to add classes. Fairly straightforward process here. Again, if I click add classes, it'll bring me a list of all of them that I've used before. But there's two buckets when you add classes. There's sanctioned classes and all classes. So for you guys who are running WISSOTA sanctioned classes, any classes that you're running that are WISSOTA sanctioned will already be built under the program under sanctioned classes. So I choose sanctioned classes. I can choose WISSOTA from our list of sanctioning bodies. And then you pick the classes that you want. Your Hornets, your Midwest mods, your, whatever, late models, all the kind of stuff. Any WISSOTA sanctioned class that you're running, make sure you add the prerequisite WISSOTA sanctioned division for those nights. For other classes that you may be running, or this also comes into play for test and tune nights or nights where you're running WISSOTA rules, but it's not technically a WISSOTA sanctioned event, go to the more classes option. And then instead of choosing sanctioned classes, we'll choose all classes. And then I can choose my out of the box stuff. So I can choose late models. And then instead of WISSOTA late model, I can choose just a regular old out of the box economy late model, or mini. There's just so many of them. Limited late models, just regular old dirt late models, crate late models, whatever you want to add them. Whatever applies for you for that night. You want to make sure that you've got all of those added correctly. So again, if you're running a practice or a test and tune night, obviously that's not a WISSOTA sanctioned night. So use the out of the box version of the classes, not the WISSOTA sanctioned classes for that stuff. And then any non-WISSOTA sanctioned, even if it's WISSOTA rules, non-WISSOTA sanctioned night, use a mod instead of WISSOTA mod, that kind of deal. So those are important things. But otherwise, you get all your classes added appropriately. Now it's time to create events. So I can come to the events tab. A couple of things that I can do here. One, you can have multiple schedules. That's a confusing naming convention, I know, when we talk about a season and a schedule. A season is just a calendar year, like we mentioned. 2023, when I put it up in the upper left, it's just Jan 1 to December 31. A schedule is a grouping of events or an independent point standing. Most tracks, and I'm talking like 95% of tracks that I work with will have one schedule that'll suffice. You got a situation where, there's a track in Michigan. I always use this as an example here. They run a 25 race schedule. Then they have also what they call their Big Six series. So on those 6 special nights, it's all the regular classes, but they have those nights go to a point standing for their regular season, and also a point standing that only applies to those 6 events for their Big Six series. They have 2 schedules for that reason. Those events are a part of both schedules. ASCS has a national tour and a regional, like a Frontier region and a Northern Plains region and a, whatever else they got, Red River and Sizzle and Summer Speedway, all their stuff that they got. So there's a couple of examples there. There's also an example that I've seen that I like for multiple schedules is if you're running like a 3-day event and the lineups for your 3rd night are going to be based off of the points earned from the first 2. That's a reason to have multiple schedules, because now you're having that in those individual nights are going to have a different point calculation than your regular season. Still want to have points, so you add a different schedule for those nights. So those are some of the reasons to have multiple schedules. As I click on one of my schedules, I can view all of the events inside of it. So if I need to come to any of my events, I can do that. I will go to the May 5th event. You can see that I can rename it, redo the times, edit the description, those types of things. Velvet asks, can these multiple schedules go across 2 tracks? No. All of our tracks are on their own individual network. If you have an entity that's going across 2 tracks, that would become a series profile at that point. And just like full disclosure, I'm not a sales guy, so if I seem harsh in explaining any of those things, it's because I'm not that. Tickets, you can add tickets in this screen. You can edit the series and classes that are a part of your event in this screen, do all those things. You can also do the running as scheduled option, which down here, so if you're postponing or raining out your event or something like that, you can change your status of your event to rained out, postponed, canceled, whatever you need that way. Try to put that in there as accurately as you can. Like if you're postponing an event, like mark it postponed, create a different night on your schedule of the same name, like actually postpone it. Rain out, cancellation, those types of things. Try to make that accurate. You check the box, you confirm. So if I rain this event out, because I know it's going to rain May 5th, because that's how May weather rolls. The other thing you can do on this screen then is you can migrate your tickets. We'll talk a lot more about tickets, like I said, on Thursday, but you can press the migrate tickets button here, select a different event that you want your tickets to be a part of, and push those tickets to a different event. And there's also an option to unredeem any tickets that had been redeemed. So if they'd already been scanned in, you can unredeem them. They'll be good to scan in at whatever event you pick. So those are the things that you can do here. I'm going to go back and make this as scheduled now. Perfect. So then when I go back to all of my events, now I can add new events to the schedule. If you come to this page for the first time, there won't be any events here. It'll just say add events. Add new events to your schedule. You check the boxes for the dates that you want to add, and next. And then right here, all we're doing is name, description, which can be whatever you want it to be. It can be purse information. It can be ticket information. If there's a county fair in town, if there's a dunk tank for your announcer, which I don't recommend for anybody, you can do all those types of things. Pits, gates, hot laps, racing starts, you said all that. There's an event type field here that we just added like a couple weeks ago. I think it was even last week. So if you want to make this event, like if you're going to set it as a concert or a banquet or whatever, you can do those different types of things. Most of them are racing events. And then you select your classes. This is the class list that you had added in the previous tab, in the config tab. And then add in next. So you get this first one created, add in next takes you to the next one that you selected. You can also discard one at a time. But adding your schedule, if you know what all your dates are, you know what all your classes are, really becomes a pretty fast process, because I can click every date on the calendar and I can add in next my way through that and make it through that pretty quickly. So the next page I'm going to show you here is registrations. Registrations is a way to gather driver information before the season or on event-specific basis if you have pre-entries for one of your bigger events. So there's a lot of information that you'll gather here in registrations. You'll get, obviously, name, phone number, email address, address information. If there's a car owner, all that stuff for the car owner. emergency contact, their default transponder number, their number options, their years experience, trying to think the jacket size. So all those things you can gather via registration. We don't gather social security number or tax ID number. Cloud-based program makes it difficult for us to do that, but we do, gather the rest of it, the stuff that you would need to keep track of your drivers or, reach out to them. So when you add a registration, you can either add a yearly. There's only one yearly that's allowed per season. There is an event registration. There's miscellaneous, which comes into play if you've got multiple schedules. Now I can have multiple registrations for each schedule. And then a general registration we have keyed in for a non-racing event, banquet, pit party, whatever, promoters association meeting, all that kind of stuff. So do all that stuff there. When I then create the registration, I can add what classes I want to be a part of it. I can add an entry fee. So if you're going to charge your drivers some kind of registration, membership, or license fee for your racetrack or series, you can do it that way. Or if this is an event-specific registration or an entry fee for that event. There is an additional price option. So if you put in your entry fee of $50 and you put an additional $50 for your sprint cars, that would be a $100 entry fee for that class. So additional price there. There's also a downloads feature here. So if you add anything you add to this downloads field, the drivers will get when they register. So when a driver registers, they get a confirmation email telling them that they register. Everything in the downloads field that shows here, they'll get as an attachment to that email. So you want to put a W-9 in, you want to put a minor release form in, you want to put like your full schedule, you want to put, whatever you want in there. You can put that information in there as downloads. I know race car drivers are race car drivers. I know it's a struggle to get them to register in the first place, let alone then fill out more forms. But it is an option that you have available. And for your folks who are kind of on task and on target, it makes it a lot more efficient for those folks. So there's that. There's also a share button down here. So once you got your registration created, you can press share and share it directly to social media if you'd like. Makes it easier for them to find it. I will jump ahead now to points. Points is kind of what you would expect it to be. There is events, features, wins, top fives, the differential, all that kind of stuff. This earnings column off to the right is not publicly available anywhere. But if you have a driver who is claiming that you got it all wrong one night on the points, you can click on any of these drivers. There's one with 5, any of these drivers, and you can audit that list. So at 316, I can say, all right, got 4th, got 37 points, got $1,850. So you can audit that list on an event-by-event basis to make sure your points are accurate. Also on this points page, there is an option for included events, so you can see which nights are included in that point standing. If you have any nights that you calculated points for that is part of a different schedule or that you did not calculate points for at all, it'll show in the non-points events, so you can see which events do not have points. And then there's a championship settings option at the bottom as well. Championship settings comes into play for any kind of customized championship calculations. So things like throwout nights, if you're running 18 nights, but you're only keeping their top 16 nights, you can throw out their worst 2. Things like rookie standings, things like standings that are specific for an age range, multiple classes in one point standing kind of combined. You can do that as well through the championship settings. So a lot of things that you can do on this screen for championship settings. Now, that's not part of the plus plan. That's part of one of the higher plans. So if that's something that's required for you guys, we can talk about that. But that is one of the options available. Payments tab is next here. I'm going to go to the payments tab in earnest tomorrow. But for now, I'll tell you that this is where you can see the purse payouts for every class for every race night. And you can print checks, you can print mailing labels, you can export it to QuickBooks, do all of those things. So like I said, we're going to cover this more in depth in 2 days or tomorrow night, excuse me. But there are 2 new reports that we've added to the screen that I'll draw your attention to. We have a night by night payout report. So in the yearly report there, you can see for the entire year, a night by night breakdown of all the money that they made. And then there's also the 1099 report. We've added a button to the 1099 report on this screen. It allows me to highlight one change we made to the 1099 report. For every race night that you run that you do not create payments for, You don't have to go back to that night now to create payments. There is a create payments button for each class for each race night that you didn't create payments for. So if you're coming to end of the year 1099 stuff, you can see on this screen now, oh, I missed that night, April 1st or whatever. Create payments here for that night. Makes it a little more efficient there for you. Fantasy is the next option. Fantasy is a fan engagement tool, and it's really not anything more than that, but you can use it a couple of different ways. First off, fantasy works without any input from you at all. So based off of your entry list, when you calculate lineups the first time, we'll have the drivers then split off into groups of 3 or 4, depending on your car count. Fans will be able to make picks. As your races are completed, points will generate automatically. You'll have winners at the end of the night for each class and an overall winner, and we'll have a leaderboard for each one of your season schedules, basically. What you can do on this screen, you can add your own custom leaderboards if you want to. So you can have them basically cover a custom date range. You can have them cover an entire schedule. You can have it be for one or multiple or all classes, really whatever you want to do that way. And you can rename your fantasy leaderboards. This is important. You can rename them, which allows you to use that to sell to marketing partners. Marketing partners on the fence on coming on board or wants to do something a little more, whether it's for one night or for the season. Now you can have a fantasy challenge sponsored by, Advanced Auto Parts or Napa or whatever, and that's a tool for you to make more revenue, because this is a valuable fan engagement tool. This is the most diehard fans engaging with your event the way that you cannot offer on any other platform, and you really can't offer in any other way to a marketing partner that is unique to what you're trying to do. Knoxville just signed a big money deal with Hy-Vee for their fantasy challenge. So there's money on the table for you for this kind of a deal. Yeah, I would put it under title. I would call it the, not that we're going to sponsor this, but the My Race Pass Fantasy Challenge. You call it the Napa Fantasy Challenge, the whatever you want to call it. Put that into the title, and that'll be available in every medium in which folks can make or look at fantasy picks. One thing I didn't mention in the afternoon, I want to mention here, and our suite of tools that we give to broadcasters, fantasy leaderboards, the standings are a part of that suite of tools. So if you wanted to, you could go to your broadcasting partner and say, hey, look, I want you to put my fantasy standings up throughout the course of the night also, and they can facilitate that. When you go into and look at one of your leaderboards, you can add prizes to the leaderboard as well. So get creative with your prizes. Give out pay-per-view subscription, give out T-shirts, give out things from other marketing partners. Seafoam Bugs Be Gone Cleaner. I say that 1 million times a night at Jackson. Give it out via fantasy instead of making your announcer give it out via lucky number programs to say it 1 million times a night. Doing all those kinds of things. That really, really, really helps fan engagement and gets fans excited about doing this because it is already fun and interesting for them. People my age and younger, so Dakota's age, they're going to be on their phone pretty much regardless throughout the course of the night, looking at Facebook, whatever. So why don't you have them engaged in your event, looking at things that have to do with your race night, comparing their scores to their buddies, looking at where their drivers start or finish, whatever, as opposed to seeing that one of their other friends went to a campsite and they decide to do that next weekend instead. Is the prize emailed, or how do they get it to the winner? You can do a couple of different things. One, promo codes are often the easiest types of prizes to give out, because you're going to get we have team standings here. Obviously it's empty because nobody makes fantasy picks at a fake racetrack, but all of your players, all of your fantasy players will show up here, including their email address. So you can then email out the prize if it's a promo code or something like that. Otherwise, you have to make arrangements for them to pick up a physical thing or whatever, if it's a trophy or something, or a VP Racing Fuel jug, which I have done before. That kind of stuff. So, Dakota, I know the chat's kind of been busy. Is there anything that we should bring up for everybody?
Yeah, just a couple quick items. One, Gay just asked if you need to add groups, or can you just sign up the track? If I'm understanding you correctly, Gay, no, you will not necessarily have to add groups. That would only be if you wanted to create a specific fantasy challenge that was already being sold or something of that nature. Otherwise, just by you creating your schedule, you are going to have fantasy challenges that are auto-created.
Yeah. For each class that you run, you'll have a fantasy group or a leaderboard for that class, and then you'll also have an overall for each schedule that you have. But if you want to create a custom one for a specific date range or one that only applies to one class for one date or something, you can do that as well.
The only other thing I wanted to bring up really quick is coming from Callie. She wants everybody to know that she is hoping to start sanctioning races very, very soon. So get your stuff in, make her life a little bit easier, and then she's not chasing you down. And that's really the only other piece I had there.
Cool. So then we get to jump to suspensions, which if you've ever looked at it as a 20-something, Cameron says, I read that it's Callie at first, and I was like, no. Yes, fantasy can be valuable for the younger generation. It's a real fan engagement tool. The next thing I'll show you, if you've ever gone to the suspension tab before, you've seen nothing. You've seen this isn't a thing until like 2 weeks ago, where we finally have it done for tracks. This is a suspension management for individual tracks. You can add suspensions now for your drivers who are guilty of wrongdoings, whatever that wrongdoing may be. You can add a suspension type, so rules, misconduct, refused inspection, claim rules, whatever. You can add a fee if you need to. Then use the search to apply it to a competitor. So Chris Krug suspended for rules violation, charge $50, whatever. Add some notes to that. Once you have the suspension created, you can then come into this screen if you need to lift the suspension, if you need to mark the payment as paid, those types of things. You can mark a start and end date to your suspension, and there's a revoke points option. So you can have it to where the points are revoked for that driver for any period of time that you select, whether you're going back in time to previous already completed events or forward in time to subsequent events on your schedule. So you can now suspend drivers. Could that be linked when WISSOTA suspends someone to go across all? I got this in the afternoon. I'll tell you, that is something that I did not consider. And as this is a brand new feature, there's always things that you didn't consider right away. We built this for individual tracks, so no, WISSOTA specific suspensions do not show here. Although in the entry screen, you'll still get the suspension bypass for a WISSOTA suspension or a track suspension, regardless of which one. So you still have the option to bypass. Yeah, otherwise this is for individual tracks or series. There's a new report that we built in as well to where you can see the suspension bypass report. So this will be a list of people who have bypassed suspension, and that will be true for your own tracks or series or for WISSOTA. So like if WISSOTA suspends somebody or you suspend somebody, at the entry screen, you bypass that suspension to let them compete. Either way, it'll show in this screen. Dakota?
Just while you're mentioning a report there, the license, temporary license report being available by track now.
Ooh, yes. This was a heavily requested feature as well. I don't have reports on my docket today, but you know what I do, and I'll show you this one. There's reports. There has been for a long time a bypass membership or a temp license report, and it's always been individualized to that racetrack. Not anymore. Now, if I click on the temporary license report for a schedule, of course, I don't have any temp licenses. I do. So I've got this Chris Krug entered with the temp license, whatever. So it shows nothing right here. That's very important that it shows nothing right here because that means the track has a temporary license that person bypassed. If it said WISSOTA right here, that would show you as the racetrack if you bypassed the WISSOTA license. That has been asked for by so many people for probably 2 years now. And now you can view the sanction bypasses in a report as a racetrack. So you can know at the end of the year on a per track basis, here's all of the people that I have bypass license for, whether that be a temporary license or a bypass membership completely. If there was WISSOTA bypasses, and now Callie doesn't have to run that report and email it to you every 2 weeks. So you can keep track of that at any time, whenever you want to. Yeah, that's really the only report that I'm going to show here today. So I go back to season management. There are a couple of reports that are specific to season management. We looked at the suspension bypass. There is a WISSOTA point average report also, which for me will be empty because I don't, well, no, it's not. I did run a couple races with that class. Perfect. So you'll be able to see the point average, the points on a per night basis. So if you're questioning the lineup on the WISSOTA point average lineup, you can come to the screen to verify what the point averages actually are. There is also a current points and pay report, which will show you on a night-by-night basis, or excuse me, on a year-long basis, the points, the earnings, the gap, all that kind of stuff. We've added fields to this report this year, so there's start, wins, top 5s, and top 10 fields as well. And when you get enough fields added to this report, when you go to print it, if you want to print it, it'll actually switch to landscape mode automatically if you have enough fields added to this. But otherwise, yeah, you can view those reports on that screen. A couple of other things here up in settings. Lineup settings is where you can go to favorite which lineups you're going to use throughout the course of the year. So they show up in the My Lineups area as opposed to the All Lineups area. If you really need to, you can give a custom name to each of those lineups. There is an option as well for points and pay schemes. I'm not going to go through the entire process of adding a point scheme, but if you are running WISSOTA sanctioned divisions, you use the WISSOTA sanctioned scheme. So I'll add the scheme, choose the global scheme, and there is WISSOTA national scheme for your championship points. And then there is also the passing points options. So if you're going to run a passing points show, both of the WISSOTA existing passing points options are here, whether that be 2 1/4 or 1.76. And I don't want anybody to explain to me why it's 1.76, but I'll assume some real mathematicians were involved, and it's very, very useful. But those are all there for your championship points or your lineup points. You also have the option to create payout schemes. We'll show you where to apply those schemes in tomorrow night's action. And then under settings, there is one other option they'll show you. It's manage classes. I really caution folks to remove a class unless you just have never used it, because if you remove a class that you have used, you may lose those historical records for that class. But you can rename classes here. I want to stress that Cali has rules about what's allowed in terms of renaming WISSOTA sanctioned classes. But if you need to rename some of your other classes, you can rename them in this screen if you'd like. And that's really what I have to show you tonight. We wanted to go through the basics of dashboard, profile, and season management. Like I said, tomorrow we'll talk about the race management, connecting to orbits or Westhold, points, pay, and the 1099 report. Kind of just basically, here's a race night start to finish will be tomorrow. Thursday, we'll look at tickets, whether that be GA or all advanced ticketing features, and then website stuff and news stuff and those types of things. But I do have a little bit of extra time here. So if anybody has any questions that need to be shouted out, please shout out those questions. You can feel free to put them in the chat or unmute at this time if you got a question regarding anything we've seen tonight. Okay. I'm going to go through my blinders on read here once from Cameron. We'll be confirming participation in these webinars. WISSOTA will. There will be a question and answer in each session to send to Callie. If you're watching the webinar at a later date on YouTube, you must also confirm participation the same way. All you need to do is email Callie, that's callie@wissota.org, the answer, and they will mark you as completed. Simple as pie. Does WISSOTA, oh, that's Benji, I'm sorry. The question is then, how many sanctioning bodies signed on with My Race Pass before WISSOTA? The answer is 0. So if I need to email Callie that I participated, I would email my first and last name, the track that I am with, and the word 0 to be counted for participation. So that is that's all we got. Anything else to bring up from anyone else? NX classes. Sam, you're going to stress me out. Send an email to support@myracepass.com, and we can go through that, because what we're finding are folks who do NX classes seemingly all do them differently, and we want to make sure that we give you the right information. So just reach out to individually on the NX stuff. Yeah. Yeah, the legend stuff. Yeah. So that's all for today. I appreciate everybody tuning in. Really taking the time out of your evening. Again, tomorrow's session will be either happen at 1 in the afternoon or 7 at night. It's the same session. For the folks who come at 7 at night, Dakota will lead the way through that. So best of luck to all. And I really appreciate you coming. Recording is stopped now. So again, thank you everybody for taking the time.